You lose, I win, shut up, I'm gonna keep doing what I'm doing, and then I'm supposed to go ahead and feel like that's just the day. Hello to all. Happy Sunday, or whatever other day of the week it is that you're checking this out on. Welcome to Dwell On It. If you're new here, Dwell On It is a series where I answer your questions based on my lived experience, or if you'd like to know more about the trans community, or just happen to want to know random questions like, do I prefer hamburgers or hot dogs? It's pretty open as to the questions that you can throw my way, so if you have questions that you would like to ask myself, a trans woman, feel free to throw them in the comments or by DM, depending on the platform you're checking this out on, and I will add them to the grab bag to be answered in a future episode. It's been a great opportunity to share my lived experience with others, especially considering the state of our world right now, where we're getting a little more uptightiness from the rightiness, and so making sure to give this awareness of, trans lives, trans awareness, trans visibility, trans rights, I feel is really important. And so knowing that, while you're here, do me two huge favors. One, hit subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet, because that will help YouTube algorithms, Instagram algorithms, whatever. The more subscribers they see encourages the visibility so that other people tend to see these videos as well too. Same thing by adding a like. Do me a big favor, hit like on that, help influence those algorithms as well so that this messaging gets promoted to others as well passively. And then I guess I could say third, please share this. Please take this link, share to your networks, whether it's by email, put it onto your social media itself. Please engage. Jump in the comments with questions of your own, or send them by DM, or however it may be, again, depending on whatever platform it is that you see these on. I will throw those questions in said grab bag, and we will get them answered in a future episode. While I'm holding this, I may as well use this as a good opportunity. Shoppers Love You Run for Women is a fundraiser that I participate in since 2016, and my goal always is to raise $1,100 for women's mental health awareness, supporting women's wellness programs. The organization in Winnipeg that is supported is Mood Disorders Association of Manitoba, and I always look forward to being able to do what I can to, help fundraise and support this wonderful program. As a matter of fact, last year they featured me on their Instagram page. Aside from many other things, including denouncing online abuse, it is a very genuine organization who understands, for starters, trans women or women, and most importantly, the 2S LGBTQI plus community is a community that deserves respect, safety, dignity, and are not afraid of sharing their position on that. So, total plug, may as well run with it while we're here. I'll throw a donation link down below. Last year I hit over $2,200. Off the top of my head, I believe it was closer to $2,500 that I raised, and what I did as a challenge last year, because of reaching $2,200 before my 40th birthday, I ran the 10K event wearing 40 pounds of weight vests. So no gimmick this year, straight up, because depending on whenever this orky gets scheduled, I don't want to overexert myself, but it was an absolutely fun challenge to put together. So it was really exciting to have that, that opportunity. Back to business. While we're here, let's get into Dwell On It and see what today's episode's got in store for us. What is the most memorable gift that I could give to a trans woman? I could be cheesy and say acceptance. When it comes to gifts, I feel gifts are a very personal thing. I know I've mentioned that in the past. When it comes to what's memorable, would certainly strike strongest when it is more personal as opposed to objective. That's probably the best way that I could put it. I am Taylor LaChrist before I am a trans woman. I am a trans woman. I'm more than just this one part of me. So I'd like that to be understood. Recognize the individual that you're getting a gift for as the individual, not a classification of where they exist in life or society. That said, something that recognizes her uniqueness. We can even use strong words like courage, passion, confidence, all of those types of things to acknowledge the challenge to exist in society and have a gift that says, hey, I see you. I see where you are. I see the world around you, and you're standing here and you're doing it. That's amazing. When it comes to a gift that speaks that type of message, be, to me, the most memorable one. But like I said, the most memorable gift, I would say, start with what's the most memorable gift that you can give that individual. What means the most to them at the time. And if you just wanted to add a little trans accent to that, I couldn't think of something otherwise specifically. Some people like to wear articles of clothing or jewelry that represents things like trans pride. Some people like to have it rather demure. A really good example, myself, I'm not one for like badges or pins or flags or whatnot, but I absolutely am proud of who I am, and I like to incorporate that in little ways and little places. Themes on my computer, for example, in terms of backdrops and whatever, I like to use colors that represent, pride flags depending on the time of the year, and even for myself, where my nails are pink, blue, and white, and that is to commemorate my 2-year anniversary of starting HRT at the beginning of February. So little things like that, they're subtle, but they're still loud. For me, that is an example of how, it really gets more to the person of who they are individually before you get into like a group or a community or something along those lines. I hope that offers a little bit of guidance. That is a super subjective question. All I know is that any gift that shows effort is going to be appreciated strongly, and let's just start there. What was your experience like to remove facial hair? Does electrolysis hurt? Speaking of subjective, how is your pain tolerance? Those are two questions I can answer, one with experience. Electrolysis is different than laser hair removal. Electrolysis goes one by one on the hairs, which is pretty much a permanent destruction of the hair follicle and sessile. It is a longer procedure, and it also requires hair growth to be out more significantly so that the tweezers, whatever you want to call it, can actually get the job done. I haven't had electrolysis, but I can tell you in principle, you are running heat through a hair to kill a hair follicle. That is not a comfortable feeling. Just simply put. My experience when it comes to removing facial hair, what was covered by Manitoba Health was laser hair removal. That is a similar system to electrolysis, but a lot less intense. And what it is pretty much something along the lines of like a gun, usually about this size or whatever different models are, but it uses a certain light frequency, when it goes up against different areas of the face, that it is attracted by the darker hair that is from facial hair. That is how it works. You have a smooth face when you're doing that because you don't want to expose you don't want to have any heat loss essentially go above the skin from any sort of growth. You're doing patches that are heating up those areas of darker facial hair. It doesn't entirely kill the hair follicle, that it is possible that there is growth as ages go on, lots of time. I still have to, pluck a couple now and again. They're super blonde though, to go along with hormone therapy that, my facial hair is as light as this. So, the odd time one would show up, right? It's just grab and go, as opposed to in a past life where it would be, of course, very scruffy. So when it comes to does it hurt? Now, laser hair removal is different than electrolysis, but as I mentioned, that it is still using heat in a way, shape, or form to cause the lack of regrowth. So I think the way that I described it to a friend was getting smacked by an elastic band against the face, really tight, but it was also connected to a car battery and hot. Does it hurt? I don't say it's comfortable. Pain is, of course, a tolerance, so that is a kind of a subjective question, but it isn't cozy. It's not cozy, that's for sure. Again, you're not having a feather rubbed over your face or anything like that. And even from my own experience, I thought it was kind of funny where frequently the tech, as time would go on, would be like, this is maxed out. I'm like, I don't know, do the maxed out things, right? And it's because I was able to tolerate it. Full disclosure for everybody up there, never fun for anybody. Thin skin, and also just by pretty much the type of facial hair in the area versus the thinness of the skin and just the overall sensitivity that's, below the nose, above the lip. Never a fun time. Fortunately, not a lot of place to work with. I could easily do it again. It's not something that you do every day. I can tolerate it, but I also, if that's something that you are able to incorporate, afford, however it may be during a transition, for sure. It's highly recommended. Electrolysis is something that I thought about before. Lasers, perfectly fine for me. I like the idea that with laser that, you can have a smooth face, right? You show up with a smooth, clean face. And the reason why it's important with a smooth face, talking about that heat again, is you don't want to have any hair above the skin surface that captures heat, and then that heat just goes off into space. Now it's useless. But if you've got a smooth face, then that darkness of the hair follicle captures the entire area and is much more efficient. It was an experience, right? Like, it's just, it is what it is. And it's, it's not a trans thing that, people get, whether it's facial hair removal or laser hair removal or whatever hair removal on multiple areas of their body, however they want, depending on their aesthetic standards. My recommendation for anyone, if you are sensitive to pain, take, however it goes for your form of pain tolerance. Don't drink or anything previously. You want to be as healthy as you can before every single session, just because you are snapping your face with an elastic band connected to a car battery and hot. Be mindful about that, but then also do the best you can to just stay stoic. And what I mean by that is that go into it and try to be as relaxed and patient as possible, because if you're going to sit and squirm all the time, you're going to make it more difficult for the tech. And if you know that it's going to be a relatively uncomfortable sensation, then you can also be more prepared for it. It's the same when it's getting a tattoo. If anyone's had a tattoo, you're going to have a needle poking into your skin 1 billion times for however long. It's going to be relatively uncomfortable no matter where it is on the body. So just do the best that you can to relax, let the tech and let the artist and let the whomever do their job, and you're going to have a much better experience overall. To tangent, it's the same thing when, like, a lot of people ask me about my piercings and asked if they hurt. I don't recommend them for people who are squeamish with piercings, because it wasn't a simple piercing because of, the tightness of the skin and being right on the top of the jawbone and so on. It did take a little bit of work to do, but all I did is just laid there and let the tech do the job. If I sat and moved and whatever all the time, then it would have made her uncomfortable. She wouldn't have been able to do the job that she wanted to do because I would have been moving around all the time. And for what reason? I know that I'm getting some holes poked in my face. It's going to come with a little discomfort. That's my experience overall. Really grateful that was covered by Manitoba Health. Seeing the results from that was one of the most rewarding feelings. Even leaving the session, and to be honest, I'm kind of grateful that it was a very masky era at the time still, because your face is red, right? When you're out, remember, slept with an elastic band regularly, connected to a car battery and hot. This got red. Sometimes you would put some ice on it or not. You just let it heal up, then just wait till the next session 4 to 6 weeks later, and here we are. Is there anything about trans rights that you wish you weren't passionate about? Great timing. Abolish the police, defund the police, reform the police. Whatever. It's frustrating. And honestly, even just considering what's going on in our country right now with this freedom convoy and whatever, which is an absolute front for right-wing hate. I know sometimes I'll let the word slip and call it a broken system, but it's not a broken system. The system is working as intended for the people who designed the system. To have that system and then at the exact same time proudly announce policies and protections about trans rights and, other forms of discrimination that are protected from hate and blah, 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 and et cetera, et cetera. The fact, there is so much the left hand's not talking to the right hand type of stuff. It's blatant. It is a simple thing to correct. And unfortunately, the level to get to actually influence that change is high and exhausting to reach. To go ahead and communicate to your peers and have everyone, yeah, that's a great idea. Oh, yeah, no, you're so right. Go ahead and keep advocating and da-da-da-da-da. But to not have the ability to force the hand of the decision makers is where things get really difficult to process. And believe me, I do. I still do, and I always will, because part of my passion is to make sure that my lived experience doesn't have to be as difficult for the generation behind me. And especially if we're looking at what's happening in the States, where it's just getting worse and worse and worse again when it comes to us LGBTQIA plus rights. As much as it's great in some areas, it is absolutely embarrassing in others. It's tough to not let that be part of, what inspires my day to work. Cis folks aren't going to do it unless trans people explain to them why it must be done with accountability. Very rarely do I feel there's going to be a cis person in a position of power willing to go ahead and make an important change and be fully prepared to deal with all the backlash from all the bigots and the transphobes who refuse to believe that change was necessary. The cis person, the decision makers, whomever they are, and don't get me wrong, there are trans decision makers too, but let's just be honest with stats here. That cis person to go ahead and put their career, their accountability, their name on the line to support a demographic that is spoken as being supportive, but not actively supported when it's actually time to, step up. Rarely will they go to bat unless they have a passionate reason to go to bat, unless they know somebody personally, unless there's a life experience that inspires them to do better, unless there's even something in it for them. Like, very rarely is there going to just be that passive, hey, this is the right thing to do because the right thing must be done type of thing. That is where I am most passionate about knowing that the education exists. The reality of change is right there, but the ignorance and fear of doing the right thing and being supported by insane reasons, it's really difficult to not wish that wasn't part of advocacy, of demanding change. It'd be great to just sit down at a table with someone and be like, here's where things are wrong, so let us correct the things, and then we can carry on our day. And then that person goes, oh, that makes tons of sense. I will do this right now, and everyone will just listen to me because this makes sense. But unfortunately, decision makers continue to look at, okay, I hear what you're saying. Now I'll just ask what other people think of it without recognizing the reason why the trans person has to come to the table, why the advocate has to come to the table, is because other people's opinions are giving weight. Negotiation and opinion are not part of diversity and inclusion. It's also not saying that, when a trans person speaks, you just do everything that they say. But if a trans person is explaining objectively, here's a failure. You say your policy is this and you're not doing it. Do the policy or remove the policy. Well, you don't want to remove the policy because that's a bad look, right? Well, then you better start doing the policy, right? It's those types of things. But the reality is they're like, yeah, we'll just keep the policy in here and ignore you because you are a tiny percentage of individuals and this makes us look great. So you lose, I win, shut up. I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. And then I'm supposed to go ahead and feel like that's just the day. And that's just a day in the life. And you continue going back to the table and saying, your policy says this, and here's the consequence of doing that. If you go ahead and keep promoting this and you fail at this, I'm going to go ahead and amplify problem here, there, or everywhere. Did you ever have to decide between you or your partner, family, work? Never a decision, but always a thought. I never had a point in my life where I was coming out to someone and they said, well, I don't like that, so either pick. But, when it came to being vulnerable with people, wanting to find a secure place to, whether it's work or sport or whatever, that would always be in the back of my head about wondering that if I was going to come out, am I still going to have a secure place to work? Am I still going to be accepted with sports? Am I still going to have my friends? If whatever. Those are absolutely perpetual thoughts, but it was never a decision. When I entered trans healthcare for the first time, that was my decision to accept any loss that may come. That was the only decision that I ever ultimately had to do. Make the decision that I can no longer live an inauthentic life, finally be happy, and manage with whatever obstacles would come my way, should any come my way. That was the only decision that I've ever had to make. So this was fun. I really enjoyed this series of questions. I feel like I say it all the time, but you know what? I really enjoy this all the time. I'm pretty sure that there's only one episode in recent memory that I finished on a really salty note. And actually, while I'm thinking about it, go check it out. Stats say Salty Taylor's Best Taylor, I believe is what that title is called. Anyway, that said, thank you so much for checking out this episode of Dwhell On It. Let's get a recap here. 1, subscribe. Please subscribe. Please subscribe, because what that does is it helps encourage the social media platforms to amplify this message to other people. Big thing too. Like or love or whatever it is. Make sure to let those social media platforms know that this is stuff that is important to get heard by others. Share it. Please share this channel, share this messaging, share this episode, share the playlist, whatever. Share it with your network, whether it's by email, social media platforms, telling peers about it, copy and paste it in text messages, whatever it's going to be. Share the message so that other people continue to hear it. And then, as I mentioned, check the links. Going to have that fundraiser in there if you'd like to support women's mental health awareness and women's wellness programs at Mood Disorders Association in Manitoba. You can do a secure online donation of any amount. Please help that program. I'm going to reach $1,100 before June 5th, and especially so the sooner I hit that. If I happen to find out when an Orky is happening between then, I might be able to introduce a challenge after that or not. No promises, but it was really fun to do last year, so let's just see what happens from there. And then also, as always, there's the campaign link. If you go ahead and take less than 1 minute, email address, postal code, you will add your voice to a message that goes to elected officials in your area. Let them know an improvement for an organization, a business, a company's corporate social responsibility is expected and is important to you, because remember, a strong community leads to a much more better, inclusive, safer, and profitable community, if you want to play that language too, considering the world that we're living in right now with all of this nonsense that people who have no comprehension of what oppression is like insisting that they lost all of their privilege. Let us remind our elected officials that that is seen. There is no space for that, and we must create a better system, we must create better communities, and we must flush out this ignorance. So get in there, literally less than a minute, probably even less than 30 seconds. Share it when you're done. Do it repeatedly. You can do it 3 times a day. Make sure to have your voice heard, because your voice is important. Let's wrap up. This was tons of fun. Get in the comments or the DMs with your questions so that I can add them to the grab bag to have them answered in a future episode. Always really fun to do. Always really fun to interact as well with people who are watching these episodes and providing feedback. So please make sure to do that as well. And for now, I'm going to wrap up. As I mentioned, have a great night. Oh, and what's the rest that I say? Have a great rest of your week.